Welcome back, family. Okay, so it's also here saying that in reference to they skip over about slavery, and then they're highlighting the themes of being submissive. The same thing goes on with the New Testament as well. The whole book of Revelation is left out, so there's no new kingdom, no new world, nothing to look forward to. And this is actually what you would see Museum of the Bible on Twitter here. And it says also that the most slaves were illiterate or prohibited from reading. So what would be the point of such a Bible? So what would be the point? Of course, from all the you hear about the Negro old songs that were sung in the fields, and things that they actually always connected with, and that was the spiritual, far as supernatural ways, and they always knew that they had a spiritual connection, and but of course they did it for the narrative to have everyone to believe and to obey, and because there's so much, it was a rebellion, and let the story be told is that a lot of it you didn't see, like in Roots, that they really rebelled, but there were ones that really were rebelling. And less than 5 minutes, I wouldn't even say 5 minutes, I said well I could say 5 minutes, where I'm near 4 different plantations around where I grew up at. 4 different plantations, less than 5 minutes away from each other, I would say. And there's a graveyard less than 1 minute away. And there were graves sites that actually have 18, in the early 1800s, mid 1800s, before slavery was even abolished. So I grew up in a family where my grandfather and grandmother were always a close knit family. I'm actually on the property right now today visiting family where I literally, my grandfather, built a house for his family, and we were the grandkids, and my grandfather did well. He had close to almost 100 acres of land that he purchased from, the so-called white man. But growing up, I must admit, my family never talked about slavery, and they never talked in a manner to us to hate the so-called white man. Never. We learned, somewhat bits and pieces growing up about slavery and through the movie Roots, but they never ever, actually brought forth anything about negativity. They just raised us up in a Christian background, with the understanding to trust in God Almighty and Yeshua. But you all never, not one time, I heard anything negative came out my grandfather's mouth or my grandmother's mouth or my mom's mouth about the so-called white people. So that wasn't my world, and it wasn't because they were afraid or they were, one may call it coons. No, it was, that's just wasn't the world. So that tells me for the grave site to have that many people prior to 1865 that was buried, in the early 1800s, and I want to say I've seen some in the 1700s, if I'm not mistaken. That tells you that they were buried in a grave site where they were, other slaves were buried, but they had some leadway. So not every area were treated the same way, in regards. And my like I said, my grandparents, their parents would have been slaves, and they like Miss, when I say about the 1903, I want to say one of my grandparents was born. But you all, it just, they have painted the narrative for us, and some of it is true, and some are not. Some people had it harder than others. So I can truly say that the way I was raised to respect and love all mankind, and they didn't even tell us this. We just knew how what we saw as an example to love all mankind and to respect all mankind, and for them, of course, to respect us back. But we never was taken into an area where we had to been like, on the in the sense of have to actually look at someone of another race and feel as though we could not accomplish or could not excel, because that's not what was shown to me growing up. But I can go on for days and days, of course, but I'm going to move on, and I'll share the rest of this with a link, and you're welcome. I may have read all of it already, I think, in so many ways. So we're going to move over to the actual, where you would see the Bible. So here we go. This is the actual Bible. So this is 52 pages, and this is the slave Bible that was used. And now what I've come to find out, it says what was West Indies, and what was the other area? Let's see. I'm trying to slide this over, see if it'll let me. So you'll be able to see it. But I was looking for Genesis 15 and 13 to see what they were going to say, and they didn't have it in here. I'm just trying to get to the front of the Bible here. I thought maybe if I slide it over, it'll let me get to the front. So this is actually where it says the Holy Bible, Negro slaves, British West Indian Islands. So I'm not sure if this actually was given to other areas, but for them to say this, the British West Indies Islands, that speaks volume. Let's see if anything before that on page. Oh, okay. So this is the Bible, and I'm going to share this link, and you can actually go through. It has 562 actual pages, and you can take time and go through and see what is what. But like I said, they jump way over to Jacob, about Joseph being sold into slavery. And Joseph is hated of his brethren. His two dreams, his brethren conspire his death. He is sold to as Potiphar in Egypt. Potiphar. And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. And then it speaks of Joseph being 17 years old. And I'm just going to go a little bit more further in. So they wanted to, of course, put forth the effort to have us of course, to take in about, slavery. So that's, again, setting a narrative. So as you see to the bottom of here, it actually have where it could read it out to you as well. So I'll share this link. And this. So let me go here. It says, and then the Midianites, and then there passed by the Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver and brought Joseph into Egypt. Okay, that's what they were saying about selling to the Ishmaelite.